So today, we're going to dig into a really powerful piece by Dr. Darline Wilkenson. It asks a pretty tough question that gets right to the heart of the crisis in Haiti. What happens, what really happens, when leaders choose the perks of power over the responsibility of their purpose?
I want you to just try and imagine this day. It's February 7th, 1986. For decades, a brutal dictatorship has had its boot on the neck of the country. And then, it's over. People are pouring into the streets. They're crying, they're dancing, they're holding their kids up to the sky. It's this explosive, incredible sense of hope. And the author, she just captures it perfectly. We thought we were finally free.
And that right there brings us to the core question of this entire explainer. Here we are, almost 40 years later, and the country is in the grip of gang violence and political chaos. So what on earth happened to that promise? Where did that freedom go?
Well, to answer that, we first have to understand how that freedom wasn't just lost. It was actively taken apart, piece by piece, over time.
The author uses this really striking metaphor to describe what happened. It wasn't some sudden collapse. She says the nation's sovereignty was eaten alive. You can just feel the horror in that phrase, right? It paints this picture of a slow, painful process, driven by two forces, rot from the inside and predators on the outside.
And when you dig down to the root of that internal rot, you find this fundamental confusion, or maybe it's a deliberate choice, between two very, very different things. Just holding power and actually exercising leadership.
This slide here really breaks down the central problem. See, power is something you can grab, you can take it can be handed to you. It's transactional. The question it asks is, what's in it for me? But leadership? Oh, that's completely different. That has to be earned. It's earned through trust and service. And it asks a totally different question. What is this moment? What do these people require of me? The author's whole point is that Haiti has had plenty of the first and a desperate shortage of the second.
And this is the absolute crucial point. It's not just about the good things a leader does. It's about the corrupt things, the destructive things that they refuse to do, even when everyone is pressuring them to. This is where character isn't just a nice to have, it's a non-negotiable part of governing.
Okay, so let's get specific. How did this failure of leadership actually translate into a total loss of national control?
This timeline, man, it just shows this clear and devastating pattern. You start with the hope of 1986, and then you see these moments where sovereignty was just chipped away. In 2003, you have foreign powers meeting to decide Haiti's future without a single Haitian in the room. Think about that. Then in 2010, an election is flat out manipulated. And the result of all these failures piling up, well, it's the reality of today, where armed gangs control most of the capital.
The other really zeroes in on two key actors driving this whole disaster. On one side, you've got the core group. That's a collection of foreign nations that just kept interfering, overriding Haiti's political process again and again. But, and this is key, they couldn't have done it without the second group, the internal collaborators, a political class that basically enabled this interference for their own personal gain.
To make this real, let's talk about the story of Ginette Chérubin. Back in 2010, she was on the Electoral Council. As all this foreign pressure mounted to just change the election results, one by one, the other members caved. She was the only one who refused to sign. She was the living embodiment of that quote we just saw. Leadership is about what you refuse to do.
This phrase, it's just chilling, isn't it? Rearranged. It's this clean, bureaucratic way of saying that the democratic vote of millions of people was just tossed in the trash and replaced with the result that outsiders wanted. This wasn't just a political crisis. It was a deep, fundamental violation of the nation's dignity.
Okay, so if that's the diagnosis, what's the cure? The author doesn't just point out the problem, she proposes a framework for how you could actually rebuild, and it's based on 3 core disciplines.
I mean, these are the absolute pillars of any healthy organization, let alone a country. Accountability means your decisions have consequences. Transparency means you can't hide what you're doing. And a long-term vision means you stop torching the future for short-term political wins. The author argues that when you take away all 3, you get exactly the situation Haiti faces today.
And if you want a stark example of what the absence of accountability looks like, here's a number for you. Members of the recent Transitional Council allegedly pocketed $60,000 each in so-called intelligence funds. This is in a country where most people live on less than $3 a day. That single number, it says it all.
But amidst all of this darkness, the author points to this really powerful example of what principled leadership actually looks like in practice. And believe it or not, it comes from a pretty unexpected place.
This is such a powerful story. I mean, think about it. These young men, they don't have a functioning state behind them, they can't play in front of a home crowd, they don't have the support they deserve, and they still qualified for the World Cup. They showed up, they did their job with excellence for something much bigger than themselves. That right there, that's leadership.
And all of this brings us to the final, crucial section. It frames the future not as something that just happens to Haiti, but as something that must be actively, deliberately chosen.
The author makes this really potent comparison to Rwanda. Back in 1994, it was a nation literally destroyed by genocide. Today, it's considered a success story. Why? It wasn't because of foreign aid or good luck. It was because its leaders made a conscious, difficult decision to build institutions based on accountability and a long-term vision. The takeaway is just crystal clear. Transformation is the result of deliberate, disciplined choices.
And so we end here. The analysis is done. The history's known. The excuses have all run out. The author leaves us with this final, provocative challenge. The question isn't about diagnosing the past anymore. We know what happened. The real question is, what are we going to do with what we know? And that's a question not just for Haitians, but really for anyone who cares about what it truly means to lead.